Welcome to the Pitmaster Podcast. We're barbecue competition competitors that aim to share information, advice, tips, and tall tales about our favorite pastime. Head over to thepitmasterpodcast.com for all things Pitmasters, or follow us on your favorite social media platform.
We won the Open in '98, and that was with 400 teams.
The thing is, when people tell me, hey, I did your recipe, and my family thinks I'm amazing now.
Right? Everything barbecue is eats. We are arguing that Jerry Spring up is like, I'm not going down. I'm not going to do it. I say, Sue, got some barbecue for you. And she say, thank you, Tuffy. And it just kept going and going and going. And then as time got further along, started winning and doing real well. And I developed on a lot of rubs and seasonings, and it snowballed from there.
Damon had this ridiculous sense of being able to look at a rub and he can name it. I'll never forget. So he looks there and he goes, hey man, I say, what you doing over there? Well, I got that Sunburn Docks and Plowboy's bottle. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Here are the hosts of the Pitmaster Podcast, Rusty Monson, head pitmaster of Salt City Barbecue, and the two-time grand champion pitmaster of Smoke Ain't No Joke Barbecue, the Anthony Luan.
All right, everybody, we're here with Jerry Aguilar. Jerry Aguilar is the head cook of Burnin and Lootin out of California. He's a 19-time grand champion, 14-time reserve grand champion, 6th place Team of the Year KCBS 2019, 4th place chicken in the Team of the Year KCBS 2019, 2019 Team of the Year California Barbecue Association Team of the Year. And when he first started out, he was the Rookie of the Year in 2012, and recently an Hall of Fame inductee for the California BBQ Association as well. So, hello, Jerry. How you doing, man?
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm good.
That's a lot to say. You've been killing it lately. Lately, since 2012. So where did you get started in barbecue? How did that? So what initially got you thinking I could do competition barbecue?
Well, I think prior to 2015, I had no idea about barbecue, or I'd never cooked it. But, one day I saw it on TV and went out about a little offset in the backyard, cooking ribs and stuff. And of course, thought I could go conquer the world with these, and started seeing more and more barbecue on TV, and seeing all the festivals and contests. And I didn't even know that it was happening here in California until later on, but I thought I was going to have to travel out to the Midwest and stuff. But when I saw Harry Sue on TV, and I said, "What happened in California?" So, I was also trying to save up my money because I thought I was going to need a big giant smoker, and when the housing disaster happened in 2008, we bought a house, so all my smoker money went into the down payment. So, I was house broke, and so still had that passion where I wanted to go out and compete. So I ended up buying Weber smokers. That was all that I could afford. So, after seeing it on TV, seeing that it was in California, I really wanted to get into it.
Nice. Damn you, Pitmasters, for the TV show, man. They got so many of us hooked. That's where I kind of got the bug too.
But yeah. I'm kind of glad that I waited, because the stuff that I thought that I was going to go out with and conquer the world with, would have probably got me last place. So the more I researched and the more I found out what people cooked in the circuit, then I started practicing a lot. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Paul Ostrom, I think was his name. He went by the Pickled Pig.
No, I haven't heard.
Well, he published articles online with step-by-step details on pretty much all the meats from start to finish, like just in detail how to produce award-winning stuff. So, I studied those things and applied some of those techniques to my stuff, and that's kind of how I became prepared to jump into competition barbecue.
So and the question I've always wondered is, when someone like you gets into barbecue, when did you know that you had something that could win? What was that process? Did you take an idea from someone else, or did you just like practice constantly and all of a sudden like, yeah, this is it? And did it start winning right away? Did you have to tweak it? How does that process work?
Well, one thing I did, I did a lot of research. And so one of the advice that people would give back then was, just ask when there's a contest, just go on the forums and ask, hey, anybody needs help? I'll go wash the dishes and whatnot. And so I did that, and a couple of teams let me, be in their site, and that way I was able to see what they did and taste their food. So in 2011, I did that with 2 teams, and that just really took my stuff, to that next level, because I went home and I, applied some of the techniques, and with talking to teams at those 2 events, I learned about new products that were out. I remember back then, it was pretty exciting because like Blues Hawk Smoky Mountain had just come out. So that was like the hottest new thing. And people were excited about new rubs coming out. So, I just kept my ears open and just pretty much bought everything that I heard about. Remember my wife not being so happy about it, but just trying everything at home, and it was up until, my wife's name was Lupe, until Lupe stopped spitting it out, then I knew I had something.
Nice. Washing dishes, what is that? I throw everything away.
Actually, I throw everything away now too, and I learned that from someone. I think, who was that? Jerry. I learned that one from you, actually.
Yeah, there you go. Let's talk about. So you went out there and helped a couple teams out, and then you roll into your first competition. Were you pretty confident when going into there? Did you have your timeline figured out? Let's just talk about your first comp. I know I was a mess in my first competition. I had no idea exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, I did prior to my first real KCBS event, there was a backyarder that I went to, and I was able to, set up and run. It was only ribs, chicken, and tri-tip. But I had a timeline, and I had all the equipment and, everything ready. And they had real KCBS judges doing live feedback. So I remember, I think I won ribs and tri-tip and got second in chicken. And so I got a lot of good feedback from the judges. So I felt pretty good going into my first event. So in order to try to go for the rookie title in California, you had to not have competed in a prior year. So I waited up until New Year's Day 2012, which was the first contest for 2012 for California. And it was the second of a back-to-back. So I remember showing up with, I think, half my house there. I had way too much of, everything, way too much equipment. And it was New Year's, so my whole family showed up and all that. But I felt pretty good. I thought going into the contest that I had, good pork. Brisket was kind of the one where I wasn't too sure of, but I thought that I would just, do whatever I practice and should be okay. And my ribs and chicken I felt were pretty good. Ended up first place chicken at that contest, second place ribs, and then the baked meats, I think I screwed them up, and so those weren't too good. I don't even know where I placed.
Yeah, I think I had the similar story of packing up way too much of what you need. You bring 17 cutting boards when you really only need some disposable ones and stuff like that. But you mentioned live judging in those backyard competitions. Is that pretty standard out there in California? Because, man, when I was starting, I would have loved to have that opportunity to get some live feedback on my barbecue.
I know it was back in the days. And then at some point I remember participating as a judge, providing live feedback. But lately in SoCal, we haven't had that many, or I don't remember when the last one was, but I think NorCal still does it a lot. But yeah, it's very beneficial where you can hear what each judge has to say about your stuff.
Nice. Rusty, I think you should implement that into your backyard league.
Yeah, that'd be super. Actually, I was just thinking that's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That'd be super nice, especially the backyard guys who can be able to hear right away what they, judge.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
Yeah.
I wish I could hear now live judging. You know what I mean?
Yeah, cool. Me too. I would love it.
Just put a live camera inside the judging room.
Just like they did on Pitmasters. Yeah. Same thing. That'd be super cool.
That'd be sick.
So
yeah, definitely.
A question I have. So when you have, have you ever had to scrap a recipe completely when you've made it and, it's doing well, but you're like, you know what, I just got to scrap this. Or have you kind of been doing the same thing since day one? I mean, how many tweaks have you made along the way?
No, I do change a lot. I can't even think of how many different recipes I've run for the different meats, but when I started, I know my first year I wanted to do 4 or 5 competitions, and I ended up doing 14 of them. And that's still, even on the years when I did 20, that's still nothing compared to the big teams that are out there running 50 comps a year. So, I mean, for them, it's probably easier to get into a groove and they could go with stretches of a few comps where they didn't hit, because they'll hit the next one. But when you're not competing as often, it's a little harder to try to go out and do the same recipe, over and over and over and expect it to hit the next time. So if I go out to a comp and, if I go through 2 comps straight where it doesn't hit, then it starts messing with my head and I start trying to analyze what went wrong. But if I can't attribute, a poor performance to something that went wrong, it kind of drives me crazy, and I'll start, trying to tweak something for the next one and see if it improves and stuff like that. But there are times when if there's maybe a month between comps, then I'll practice recipes that I have in my head, or I always say, I've got this in my back pocket. If I learned something or went to a class and learned, got some nuggets there. And so when the time comes where I feel, okay, I got to actually, right now, I feel my ribs did pretty good at the start of the year last year. But towards the end, I mean, it was hard to get a call. Same with brisket. So I think the next few weeks, I'm going to start practicing some new stuff, and not saying I'm going to totally change and scrap the old recipes, but if I think and Lupe thinks that it's better than what I'm running, then I'll go and try it. Try it at the next comp.
How does she factor into all this? Is she okay, try this? I mean, you guys make those decisions yourself? Because I know that she travels with you and she is part of the team. Is she part of the team full time?
She doesn't do any of the cooking or any of the prep work, but she's the main taster. And even at home, I mean, I don't know. Usually when she likes something, then the judges like it.
That's always good to have a good palate with you wherever you go.
It's like the golden goose, man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah,
it seems like I like everything,
right?
Even the bad stuff, I might like it.
Right? You spend all this time cooking it. Of course, it's good.
I'm like, bad barbecue, still good jerky, man. I'll eat that all day.
Yeah. So you feel like you have to kind of be a little bit progressive as well too in on that level? Like as you're tweaking your recipes, I'm pretty sure back in 2012 you weren't saucing or adding like an au jus to your brisket in your turn-in box, which you probably, I don't know if you are or aren't, but like brisket's totally different in the last 5 years. I can, just in my experience.
Yeah, for sure. So do you use the same meat all the time? Because recently I've been trying to dial in certain meats, and I keep on hearing people saying like, listen, if you're going to do brisket, settle on one and just cook that and get to know that meat and perfect that one. Stop using A9s and switching to golds and switching to blacks and switching to this. What's your advice on that when it comes to meat itself? Is that wildly important to you, or are you switching on those at all, or you just stick with one?
Well, I know when I started, it was pretty much whatever you can get. And at some point, I try to up my game. And I remember I used to drive all the way to San Marcos, which it's about an hour and a half drive or so down near San Diego. And I do that just because there was a meat shop that would cater to the teams. And so you could tell them, hey, order me IBP or order me this or that, whatever brand you wanted, and they'd get it for you. And so back then, you know, we didn't care too much about, at least I didn't. But now it's like, when I was doing good in ribs, I don't remember. I think it was 2016. I was the rib team of the year in California, and that I would attribute it to the extra tender ribs. And so ever since those started hitting for me, I ran those. And last year, middle of the year, I couldn't get them anymore. And so I think that's one of the reasons my ribs started to suffer. And so right now, I don't know what I'm going to run, but that I'm going to have to figure out. But yeah, when I get something that works, I try not to change. Pork butts, I've been running Duroc because I like the taste of them, compact Duroc. Mm-hmm. Been running those for a few years, and I wouldn't want to change that. Briskets, SRF. Thing with that, I mean, that's the one thing that you order it comes in, and you know, who knows what it's going to look like. Could be heavily marbled or not too much or thick or thin. So I try to order a good amount at a time so I could sort them out and you know, save. Like right now I have one that's like my A++ gold brisket that I already knew when I was gonna cook it, but that competition got canceled, so I just signed up for the Royal today, and first thing on my mind was I'm gonna save that one for the Royal. But let's see, chicken. There was a brand that I was running for a long time and did good in chicken, and then all of a sudden they changed, and it took me a while to figure it out, but you know, something changed where it wasn't as tender. And so I had to go and figure out what I could use. And so I found a brand I liked, and I've been using that for a long time now. So if you could keep the meats consistent, I think it would help versus cooking different meats every comp.
So it looks like everyone's just kind of shutting down on you. Like, yeah, Smithfield. I'm like, nope. All right, moving on.
With that chicken thing, it could have been just something basic as they just had a better line of feed, and it could have just changed their whole cut.
It was what was it? The one that they used to sell at Costco, Foster Farms.
Oh,
and so I don't know. I don't remember when it was, but they switched to more natural, and so that's when it changed, and it would dry out on me.
So you said something in there that is something that you do that I do now because I took your class, and this is something you did in there. What does A++ mean? If you want to divulge into that.
When I get my meats, a lot of times I'll get them in bulk. for instance, like when I was running the extra tenders, I'd get them at Winco. So I'd go every week or multiple times a week. And so I'd buy up, up to like 12 racks a day. And I'd go home and I would partially thaw them. They still be pretty frozen, but thawed enough where I could take the membrane off. And I'd trim them, re-vacuum seal them, and then I'd put a letter grade. And I'd, if it was really well marbled, straight bones, thick, that'd be an A+. If it, thick and marbled, but maybe the bones were a little tweaked, and that'd be just an A, depending on how I liked it. And I'd have a letter system, just like, I think down to F if it was like totally not even if I'm desperate, take it to a comp.
That's your catering rack. That's for catering jobs.
So I do the same for any of the meats that I'm going to throw in the freezer. That way I know, because a lot of times once it's frozen, you can't really tell.
Oh yeah, it's impossible, especially depending on what kind of bag you put it in when you vacuum seal it. Those are pretty thick. But I thought that was a really cool system, and I thought that was really neat. And it helps so much. It's crazy. So when you're doing your trims, what do you trim and freeze, and what do you trim fresh for comps? Do you trim at the competition before it?
I trim and freeze everything.
Everything. Okay.
So when you get, like, for example, you get a couple cases of brisket, you'll thaw them out, trim them, then refreeze them, or?
Yep. I'll throw them in the fridge in the back. I have a back fridge, and I'll throw them in there, let them thaw, let them age a little longer. How long? I don't know. It's just, there's not like a specific amount of days. So anywhere from no age to maybe, I don't know, a month sitting there, and take them out, trim them, and re-vacuum seal them. For a while, I wasn't, like, I gave up on burn ends. I was too tempted to put them in if I would cook them. So I decided, okay, you know what? I'm not even going to cook them. I'm going to leave them at home. That way, I'm not even tempted. So I like opening everything up, trimming, and then just vacuum sealing the flat by itself, and just made it a lot easier.
Nice. That sounds like something I should do. Just get a few of them and then trim them when I can in between your schedule.
Well, it's a good thing to do for Snake River, because when I've been doing A9s recently, they send you some really good stuff. And if you get 4 A9s, 3 of them, most likely almost 4 of them are going to be really good. When you get Snake Rivers, man, you can get some bomb ones, but you can get some weird ones, so it's like your ability to go through and pick them out and look at them and decide what you want. And, use practice ones.
Yeah,
it's a really good system. That
bad one, the one that I'll complain to Anella about, that's the one that'll hit first place.
Always, right?
Well, that's what's kind of nice.
Almost guaranteed.
Yeah, here locally we have a grocer that's starting to carry Snake River products, so you're able to go and hand pick what you're actually going to be buying. So,
which is nice, because that's the hardest part, But
yeah, that's nice.
And that's I love that system. It's one of my favorites, and it's been saving my butt. And it's nice because the hardest part for competition, man, is that week before. You're having the boys over. In my case, I'm spoiled. I got 2 people on the team, and what am I supposed to say? It's not hard for me, because when we do chicken, I'm like, oh, do we guys, it's lunchtime. I'll go get lunch. Have fun. Trimming those chickens, and then I leave. But what it does is it really helps on time, because what you do is you walk up to okay, we're packing for a contest. We go grab our brisket, we go grab our chicken, we go grab our pork butt, we go grab our ribs, and we're out. There's no come over Wednesday, let's trim all the stuff,
Right.
And it's really nice.
Yeah, I probably have about 18 butts in my freezer right now, and I have them. This is before the pandemic, though. I had them for out-of-state comps, and then I had ones with a big U on them for Utah comps, because the ones on the road were they're really premium, and then the Utah ones I plan on cooking 2 of those, so I know I could at least get a couple good results. So That way, less cooler space. You're traveling. I don't need to take as much.
That's why I cook 25 at every contest.
25 butts at every contest. That a kid.
It's a lot of gateway drums for me.
Yeah. How many pork wins have you got yet so far?
None.
Maybe cook 26,
right? So, Jerry, right now you're 5th overall in the team of the year for KCBS. You're 3rd in chicken, you're 4th in pork, and you're 4th in brisket. Now, you were able to do all that last year, and you were close most of the way. In fact, right at the end there, I mean, you were up top tier, and then you edged out in 6th last year, only doing, I think, 19 competitions all year against some people who did 50. What is the plan for team of the year, and what does that process look like for you?
Well, I'm kind of bummed out because, everything that's going on, and being from the West Coast, I just have a feeling that we're going to be the last ones to open up, and so I think everybody in the Midwest and everywhere where it's opening up, they're going to have a lot of contests available to them, and so people on the West Coast are going to be just watching from afar.
Right.
I don't think I'm going to travel out to the Midwest to compete.
Right.
I might go to Utah.
Yeah.
Utah, there's a contest coming up, and on June 20th is a KCBS. So if anyone out there is interested to sign up, except for certain people like Burnin and Lootin. Lootin Booty, certainly. I know you're planning on coming, so you guys can just stay home. Christy from Girls Can Grill, all you guys can stay home.
It's so far to travel.
It really is. Think about this, Jerry. It's a lot of traveling. Yeah. Utah's not nice.
You'd have to go through
place.
Nevada. Who wants to see that?
It's like piss on a plate, nothing out there. You know,
they have their nice cities, but literally the highway, there's nothing.
Right. So when you were going through team of the year last year, it was obviously you're like more quality, not quantity. Do you think that there's advantage to someone who does 50, over someone like you who maybe does just 19, but just does really well? Is there a huge difference, or like what really gets team of the year for KCBS?
I think for sure there is, because if you're doing them every weekend, I mean, I've done maybe, I think twice. I've done once like 8 in a row, and the other time, I don't know if it was 9 or 10 in a row. And you get into a groove, and everything kind of becomes easy, even prep at home. It's like you do it in 1 or 2 days, and it's easier to do tweaks because one little thing you might have missed, or one tweak that you want to make. It's so much easier to do it the next weekend because everything's fresh in your mind. The weather's probably the same. Your pits are gonna act the same, and I don't know. I wish I was able to do all those contests, but just can't.
Right. And if you right now, there's nothing really going on, but if, like you said, the West Coast can see the last of it. So if you want to do anything, you're traveling 2,000 miles to do a contest, and there's no groove in that. It's the opposite of groove. So how many contests do you look to do a year? Let's say that besides this COVID thing happening, let's say it's a normal year. Do you do a certain amount, or just kind of come what may?
I think it depends. For me, it depends on how I'm doing, because I always say they have to pay for themselves. So if I go out, especially early in the year, and I can win one or reserve, and so that'll pay for the next one or a couple of them. And if I'm not hitting, then all my play money is gone, and it slows it down for sure.
So you're kind of just going, all right, I won, I got some more money, next contest. Is that how you usually pay for the contest? Because that's the hardest part about KCBS is, it's an expensive hobby. If you want to get out there and just do it all the time, you're going to have to pony up some cash. What are some things that you do to get going? Are you just relying, because you do well, you're fortunate enough to basically place high every single contest you've done. Is that what keeps you going, or is there different ways you can give like tips on how someone can raise money and keep money going to supply these contests for people who want to get more involved in KCBS?
Well, I really like the concept of like the guinea pig. I mean, that one's, you pay, $450, and that's your entry and your meats. But, in a regular comp, if you want to compete, I think you have to buy the expensive meat. I mean, you don't have to, but you know, I seem to not do so good or I do better now that I'm buying the expensive meats and when I wasn't. So I mean, my cost sometimes it could be about $1,000 a comp, and so you do 4 a month. There's $4,000. I mean, if you're not hitting, then you're broke.
I like the concept. Like I like that concept of the guinea pig there. I'd like to see a lot more of those pop up. We've never had one here in Utah that I know of. $450 sounds way funner than just spending that on 2 briskets.
Well, plus it's like your level playing field with everybody, you know?
Yeah.
So
kind of like the SEA thing. You just show up, cook, go home. And also to test people like Rusty to be able to trim on location instead of kick back in the hot tub at 8 p.m. and enjoy your evening.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, I hate doing trim at the comps, but I remember at the guinea pig, and I hadn't done the guinea pig for a while, but I did this one, and it wasn't that bad. I mean, it's kind of exciting. I mean, everyone's excited. It's a big party, big potluck, and you know, yeah, I've never seen people so excited to trim meats on site.
Right.
So speaking of contests and the party scene and just, you know, having all your friends there, what was your, so to date, what is your most favorite comp that you've been to?
It's kind of hard to pick one, but I'll mention 3. Number 1 was Dana Point. Dana Point out here was like the premier comp. They just pampered the teams from start to finish. Real nice venue. Would get large team counts, and that one was a nice one. The other one is Wendover. I mean, that's a super nice one. We always enjoyed that one. We'd show up Thursday and party. I mean, actually, from start to finish, it was a big party. And the other one is Santa Clara, which still goes on. I'm kind of bummed out that one postponed. I was hoping that when things open up, that'd be the first one. But that's a big one up in Silicon Valley. They just do a real nice job. They open it up for people to go in Friday and Saturday. They have lots of vending and lots of vendors. Everyone's happy. That's a concept that I always say. If anybody wants to do like a People's Choice, they should model it by what that comp does, because you know it's just like massive amounts of people show up Friday and Saturday, and I think they make up the money selling beer. They don't charge an entry fee, and I mean it's insane the amount of people that show up.
Awesome. That's real bummer. Wendover isn't happening anymore, because that one was fun.
That was mine. That was going to be my competition that I wanted to just do well at all the time, and the one I look forward to. And the one year I judged it a couple times, and then I went and cooked it, and they shut it down. So sorry, everyone. It was me, I think.
Yeah. It was Rusty's bad run, and they're like, that's it. No more.
Shut it down.
Shut it.
Yeah, and the 3 comps that I mentioned, all of those were contests where the payouts were higher than normal comps. And so, I mean, you know, the payouts are higher, more teams show up, everyone's happier, and, you know.
Yeah, the Wendover one was crazy. It was like $30,000 prize pool on that one.
Yeah.
And it was nice. I mean, you got to go in the casino.
It was a long haul, like, you know, to drive out there, but those payouts make it worth it.
Yeah, and see, that drive, Jerry, is terrible, and it's the same drive to Layton. So just think about it.
I hate that drive.
So, what is like the so the one question I always wonder is, when you're so consistent, what is it that makes you as consistent as you have been for this whole time? You know, starting out in 2012, and I mean, I'm looking on barbecue data right now, and from 2012 to now, it's just green. If you've never been on barbecue data before, if it's green, it's top 10. So I'm just scrolling through, and it's just green every single year. and you've GC'd several competitions, except for in 2015. And even, that seems to be your worst year, but even then it's a year that most people would love to have. What makes you so consistent this whole time? You just mentioned you changed your meats up, you've changed your recipes. What is it that binds it all together?
Well, first of all, in 2014, I had a pretty good year. And so I decided to hold a class at the end of the year. I actually did 2 classes. Somebody told me, hey, classes are the kiss of death. So sure enough, 2015, I couldn't get a walk anymore. So I had to reinvent myself that year. But yeah, it's, I don't know. Sometimes when we start doing good and we don't like our food that much, my wife and I just stare at each other and say, what the heck are they liking? What are we doing? But I don't know. I think I have a feeling that everybody pretty much does the same thing. Not the same thing, but very similar stuff. I mean, this past weekend I watched the Getting Basted and Boomerang class. And I mean, both of them, in my opinion, do pretty similar stuff to what I do. But, what is it that separates myself from them? Because I consider them better teams. And I think it's just the attention to detail. It's about, one thing is you got to be, when you're boxing, you got to refrain from putting in anything that's not excellent. When choosing your chicken, let's say, if you have obviously you're going to have more than 6 pieces, but how do you determine which ones go in the box, and the first thing you're going to think of is putting them in based on shape and making them look good. But what I do is I try to figure out which one's the juiciest, which one's the most tender, and try to, when I'm feeling them, that's what I'm thinking. If one is squishier than the other, when I'm saucing and I'm putting it, let's say, to the right, and one that wasn't as squishy to the left. And so, then that way when I go to box, then, try to put the ones that are going to have better tenderness. Same with ribs. We really do a lot of trying to figure out. I cook 6 racks, so that's kind of, a lot of ribs to go through, but we taste from every rack, from the left and from the right. And, we try to nail it down to the best 6 bones from all of those, and we'll mix and match if we have to. But, and it's hard sometimes to not go with what's pretty, but you gotta kind of, what am I trying to say? You gotta kind of have that diligence to not put in something that's not the best, and not try to fill the box if you don't have to. Same with pork, I cook 5 pork butts, so normally I'll put only 6 slices, and all of my slices are comfort, So how do I, it's hard to not fill up the box, everything's pretty and everything's pretty good, but we try to nail it down to the best 6 slices out of all of them. And brisket, nowadays I've been cooking just one, so it's pretty much, do I turn in 6 from this side or 6 from the other side? And, there was a contest this year where actually starting out the year, my brisket wasn't hitting. So one comp, I decided to cook Burnin. And I've been thinking about Burnin and how to make them tender. So I tweaked my timeline on them and started practicing that. And for a couple of comps, I didn't turn them in, but I felt like I was getting closer to having something good. And the contest in Hollister. I think it was in January. We went out there, and I liked my burn ends better than my slices. So I went ahead and put in all burn ends, and ended up second in brisket that day.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's sometimes, and I hear that from other cooks when they get interviewed or when they're commenting on Facebook, and they'll say, I've seen Travis say, that he'll put in just slices of money muscle or just burn ends or whatever's good. So a lot more times than not, I might say, okay, well, let me turn in this bacon when it's not the best, and then sure enough, I don't hit in pork. So the more first of all, you got to cook it right. You got to pay attention to your cook, and sometimes it gets hard because I cook by myself, and now that I do hot and fast, I mean, it's a circus in the morning, trying to balance all four meats, and I've been using thermometer, so everything starts beeping at one time, and I'm doing this and that. So if you were to see me, you'll see I'm running around like a chicken with its head cut off. But it's about focusing on everything and getting everything cooked right. Trying to figure out how to determine tenderness. One thing that I was doing was going by, like, let's say the probe feel, and say, okay, I nailed it because the probe feel was right. And then at the end, when I'm boxing, everything's tight or it's not what I thought. So, I mean, it took me a while to figure it out. Okay, well, if the feel of the probe is not working, then I got to change something. And so I did change the way I determine tenderness for stuff, and it started to work. So it's everything. It's you got to nail tenderness. You got to get good flavor, and that you got to keep your ears open to what people are using and what's working. And I know back in 2015 when I had a bad year and I was sitting at home because I couldn't afford to go compete, I thought, okay, well, I got to go back to the drawing board. So one thing I did was I went to the archives of the Rempe show and started listening to old interviews of like all the old school guys. I want to listen to the guy from Mike Wozniak from Cuba, Darren Ward, Rod Gray, all the old guys. I want to go back, listen to what they were doing, and so I felt, okay, I'm going to take it old school, and reinvent myself. So my thing was, okay, there's certain rubs that are like the baseline, like Smoking Guns Hot, and a sauce that's the baseline, and that's Blues Hog. And so start going from there, tweak to make it my own, but don't go too far from that line. And when you do stray and start making all these, crazy recipes and they hit, but then it was a one and done, you got to come right back and keep it a little more simple. And so I was able to figure that out. And by the end of 2015, I got my first 700 at a contest, and that was my comeback contest. I think it was what was I may have been fourth place or something like that, but I felt good about the cook, and I felt like I was ready to go back. Yeah.
Nice. So I was scrolling through your speaking of boxing and stuff like that, I was scrolling through your Facebook, and your chicken boxes are really, traditional 6 pieces in the box, but you had one box on there that stood out, and it was the one with the breast. I'm just curious, how did that box hit for you?
Is that the one for the jack?
It's right in there with all the other pictures of the jacks. I'm assuming it might be with the jack. It was, you had 3 on the side, and then you ran the breast right up the middle. It's a really full box.
And it's funny because I just did that box recently because we had a chicken and rib virtual contest, but that didn't work out. But for the jack, the first time I went out there, I did chicken wings, but I noticed just from talking to people, the teams that were doing breast, or at least the teams that did good in chicken, a lot of them did breast. So prior to going the second time for the jack, I practiced breast a lot until I nailed it. And that was a really nice box. The breast was super tender, super juicy. Ended up 9th, I believe.
Wow. At the jack.
There was a time when I was running chicken thighs and chicken wings together in the box. And so I think I got a first place early on. And so I thought, okay, this is what I'm going to run. But that was a big mistake because I know for sure it cost me some grands. Because, sometimes I'd leave room in the middle for the wings, but those would kind of be ready right around turn-in. So I'd go and taste them. And by that time, pretty much I'd have to put them in or have to rearrange the box. And pretty much every time I'd turn them in, whether they were perfect or not. I was hoping flavor would pick it up, but I think based on tenderness, it was hurting me more than I thought. It took me a while to go back to just thighs, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I hate wings right now. I'll never do them again.
You got to teach me how to cook them though, Rusty, before you.
I don't know. Why would you want to learn from me? I took dead. I mean, there's last place in wings, and then there's like purgatory for wings, and that's what oh my gosh.
Yeah, but
I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, but you done well with them before, so
yeah, whatever.
I want to take a chicken wings class from you because I suck at them.
So do you, just real quick, you said you mentioned that you do 6 ribs. Is that what you do always, or is just kind of whatever looks good and feels good?
Boxing them, you mean?
Yeah.
I try to just do 6, but every now and then, if I feel, okay, these 2 racks are perfect, then I'll try to do a 5-on-5 box. But I think lately that hasn't worked for me. Seems like no matter what I do, ribs, ever since I couldn't find the extra tenders that I was cooking.
Yeah.
I've been in like a rib slump.
A rib funk.
So it would make you upset that I seen some at Walmart last week?
They're different.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're a little different.
Are they?
I think so.
But the thing about the Walmart ones for me was that they were sitting in brine too long, so they would get a funky flavor. Either that or they were mushy. And the ones I was getting, they'd have them frozen. And so they would hardly get over brined, and they wouldn't get that funky flavor from the extra tender brine.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, they were perfect for me. And too bad I can't get them anymore.
So we're talking about the lowest point in barbecue. I think you kind of answered that with your 2015 question. And you talk about kind of being in a slump and going back to the drawing board. What was your most favorite win? What was the time where you won and you're just like, this is the pinnacle of it all. I can quit now and be happy.
I don't think it's happened yet, Rusty, because he's still in the game.
I mean, there's been a lot of good wins, but I think my second win was my favorite of all because and this was my rookie year. I went out to Campo, and this is a comp that's like in the middle of nowhere. People hated that comp. People that did it the prior years. I was a rookie, so I didn't know any better. But the weather was real unpredictable there, where all of a sudden you'd have crazy rain that would flood the place, and then 10 minutes later it'd be gone and never rain again. And all of a sudden these wind gusts that would, ruin everything, break all the canopies and all that. So I went there and ended up winning it. but I was a rookie, and I felt, okay, this is a fluke. The teams that were the I don't want to say the best teams weren't there, because there were a lot of good teams there, but the team of the year for that year wasn't there. Harry Sue wasn't there, which he was still pretty good and still winning at the time. So it was a smaller team count. So I felt, okay, well, this is a fluke. Next contest was like the biggest team count at the time. And everybody was there, and I'm a rookie. I had just won, but I didn't feel like to win against all the big dogs. So I go in there and it ended up winning it. So I was pretty happy about that. That just let me know that the previous win wasn't a fluke.
Yeah, you're right. There was a ton of people there, but you just edged out our local heroes, R&R Barbecue, on that contest. I just looked it up.
I know.
It's always good to beat those guys, isn't it? Yeah, there's a lot of people there. Tons of good ones. Dang, that was a good one.
So speaking of going into a competition as a new cook, is there any advice that you'd give to new cooks? Thinking about getting in a competition, I should say.
Yeah, definitely. I would say they should do their research before the first comp. Go and learn, what's winning out there. Visit a comp and, ask a team if you could taste their food. Because, maybe that would tell you if you're in line with what's winning or what's doing good or what people are doing out in competitions. And also, take a class. That'll definitely up your game. But my advice is don't get too crazy about, okay, I took this class, I'm going to go run all these recipes. Because, just because you learned it doesn't mean you could cook it. You got to practice a lot. If you don't have the same cooker, it might taste different. The timelines might not work for you. So you got to figure it out on your own pace, on your own timeline with your own meats and, all that, especially if you're going to tweak the recipe with rubs of your preference. So that's pretty much what I would say.
Yeah, I was watching on the Barbecue League. They had a brisket roundtable, and I think Fergalicious, the guy from Fergalicious, said that he does classes and he's able to tell a lot of things because people are like, well, why are you giving out your secrets? He's like, well, it's not what I give them. They got to do something with it, And he goes, so many people don't, and they don't put in the time like you just said. They're not out there putting in the work in their backyard. Like Big Papa Smokers, we had him on. We had Sterling Ball, and he's like, how often do you practice? And I'm like, once a week. He's like, you gotta do it more, got to practice more if you want to win it. That might be excessive, but that's what you have to do is like, I took your class, and and if I don't practice every single thing you taught me every single day, I'm not going to replicate what you do because, that's practice makes perfect, the old cliche, but it's 100% right. If you're not out there just doing it every day, not every day, but all the time, you're not going to get where you need to get no matter what recipe or whose recipe you have, so that's really good advice. I like that. But, so yeah, I like that one. That's a really good one. Well, Jerry, we really appreciate you coming on the show, man. It's been awesome. We had a short list of people we wanted on, and we kind of revamped it, and you're one of them. And it was super awesome that you were able to come on and talk with us because got a lot of respect for what you do. Your class, if you ever do one again, guys out there, take that class. The techniques you learn alone, the little small details has helped my game immensely. Obviously the recipes are amazing. I definitely riff off your chicken recipe all the time. I can't get away from it. It's the best one. So,
and it's funny because right after the class, all my students started beating me in chicken. I couldn't get a chicken walk.
I remember then you're like, I think you were going somewhere and you're like, all right, guys, hey, just do me one favor. Don't do this one at X contest.
Right.
So
they did.
They didn't listen to you. So, where can they find you, man? If everyone wants to kind of follow you on the socials, what's a good place to do that?
Facebook, Burnin and Lootin BBQ, and I'm on Instagram, but there's not much there.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Mainly Facebook.
So cool, man. Well, hey, again, we appreciate you coming on the show, and it's been a real pleasure for us.
Yes, thank you very much.